DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, we're not done. Can I give you a little bit more? If you don't mind, I'd like to give you a little bit more. We're going to give you the personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then here's what we do. We take all of this and we put this into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one master class. We got a lot of books actually, but one book with this exact name. All of this is under one umbrella. And here's the name of it: Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to turn motivation into discipline. How to turn motivation into discipline. In case you didn't know, and I'm going to tell you right now, and you're going to learn exactly why as we get into this. Motivation and discipline are not the same thing. They are far from the same thing. They're actually, depending on the way that you look at it, could be on complete opposite ends of certain spectrums. And today you're going to learn how one of them serves the other. Because one, discipline being that, is much more powerful, much more dependable, and much more long-lasting than the other being motivation. Now, before I get into this, go deeper into this, let me tell you that I have a text number that I want you to send me a text and let me know the most valuable insight that you got from today's episode. My number is 305-384-6894. Send me a text and let me know the best thing you got from today. The number 305-384-6894. Again, the topic is how to turn motivation into discipline. And yes, there are levels to this shit. There is more than just being motivated and hyped up. There's a whole other game out there that if you don't know about it, then there are certain things that I know about you. But I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna help get you out of that, I'm gonna help you solve that problem, because it is a problem if you didn't know. Listen up, take notes on what I'm saying here today so you understand what I'm saying, so I don't have to say it to you again. Oh yeah, and save this episode so you can listen to it again in the future, because you'll need it. Point number one, motivation is external. Motivation is something that you get from the outside world, something that comes through the air instead of through the bones, as I talked about in my book, Work on Your Game. Motivation is an external thing to get you activated and moving, whether that be words that you hear from somebody like myself, something that you read in a book, maybe some speaker that you heard on YouTube or on a podcast, or somebody that you met in person, or is this something that happens in the outside world? Your favorite athlete does something that you're excited. Your favorite entertainer wins an award, you're happy for that. Something happens and you make a big sale in your business, or for some reason you're just happy. It's a beautiful weather outside, whatever. Something, your favorite politician won their election, whatever. You get motivated and excited because of that externality, meaning something that happened outside of your personal psyche, something outside of that happened, and you get excited and activated and doing your thing. All of those things fall under the category of motivation. I get young people coming to me, and not just young people, but often it's younger people in there, let's say 25 and under, come to me asking for motivation. Dre, I want to play basketball, I want to make it, but I'm not always motivated to work out. Can you give me some motivation? Or a player will say something like, or not even always a player, but just a person will say, well, Dre, I'm facing this setback and this challenge. I didn't make the basketball team, or I'm not getting good grades in school, or I'm just not activated or excited about my life right now in the direction that I'm going in. I don't know what direction I'm going in. I don't have a direction. I don't know if there's such thing as direction for me in my life. Can you give me some motivation to feel good and feel excited about myself and my life and wherever I'm going? Usually, again, as I said, these are people in the 25 and under crowd who ask me this, but there are some exceptions. There are people who are older than that who will ask me questions like that. Drake, can you give me some motivation so I can feel better about what I'm doing, or more activated towards where I'm going, or I can maybe start to get a spark in my mind about thinking about where the hell I want to go? My answer to the question always, no matter who it is and what they're asking or why they're asking, is always the same. Hell no. No, I cannot motivate you. Actually, yes, I can motivate you, but no, I will not motivate you. I will choose not to motivate you. I'm not going to offer you any words of motivation or words of encouragement. I've had parents reach out to me also, asking me questions like this. Hey, my child didn't make the basketball team, or my kid wants to play pro, but is not working out quite right now. Can you talk to them a little bit? Can you give them something that can help them out? Now, what I would do back in the days, when I had parents ask me questions like this, I would go to my camera and I would make a video and I'll publish it to YouTube, and I'll say, all right, any player who has this situation, they can go watch this video so then I don't have to say it over and over again. I've done that many times. And actually to this day, I would still do something like that. But as far as any individual person asking me to give them some motivation to help them and make them feel better about their situation or maybe try to figure out a situation, the answer is no. I'm not motivating anybody. Now, why is this? Because I'm lazy? No. Is it because I don't want people to succeed? Also incorrect. The reason why I'm not going to motivate anybody is because if you need motivation, you're in the wrong line of work. If you're looking for motivation to practice basketball, you shouldn't be playing basketball. If you're looking for motivation to go to school and focus on your studies, then, well, I would say you shouldn't be in school doing your studies. You probably should stay in school and do your studies. You can learn something. You need to find a reason that is bigger than the studying itself and school itself that will motivate you to do what you got to do in school so you can get to the next thing that you want to get to. What is that thing going to be? And I got something coming very soon that's going to help you understand all of this, put a whole lot of context to it besides even what I'm saying right now. If you need motivation to do your job, you're in the wrong job. You need to find a different job, or you need to find a bigger reason for doing the job that you're in, one or the other. Even adults these days, people in the age 25 and older, all the way up to age 1,000, they hire motivational speakers, quote unquote motivational speakers. Why do events and event planners and conferences, why do they hire motivational speakers? Listen, sometimes I'm that motivational speaker. They do it because they know that short burst of energy that the crowd gets from the speaker, if the speaker is any good, and there are some trashy speakers out there and there are some good ones, I think I'm in the latter group, is a short burst of energy for the crowd to be excited for that event, for that 2 days or 5 days or however long the conference is going to be. Some conferences have multiple speakers who give some motivational talk just to keep everybody excited, at least for the short-term period of the event. Here's the problem with a motivational speaker or any type of motivation that anyone gets from anywhere is that it does not last, number one, and number two, is not consistent. Those are the two problems with motivation. So I'm not saying that motivation is a bad thing, but there are two main issues with motivation that can't help solve some other issues that you will need to deal with if you want to be consistent and you want to stand the test of time in what you do. Motivation cannot be dependent on to be there every time that you need it. So while motivation is cool in short bursts, you can't build your career around motivation. You ask any person who's built a solid career in what they're doing, someone who's been around for 5 years, doing something on a consistent basis to where they are consistently recognized for what they do professionally, I guarantee you they won't tell you that if you ask them, hey, has motivation been the main reason why you do the thing that you do? Most of them, if they have ever thought about it, they will answer no. Maybe some people might say, yeah, I'm motivated to do my thing all the time, but when they really think about it, they realize that that's not true. Motivation is not the thing to get you going to do your thing in your business or do your thing in your work. Motivation does not last and not consistent. You can't build a business around being motivated. You can't build a career around being motivated. It doesn't work that way. It's like eating candy. You can't build a strategy around eating candy. You can't build your fitness and nutrition strategy around, I'm going to eat Skittles today and Mike and Ike's tomorrow and M&M's the day after that and some Twizzlers the day after that and some Nerds and then some Non-Laters, then some cotton candy. You can't build around that. And again, you can dabble in it. Listen, I got some Mike and Ike's sitting on the desk right in front of me right now, off camera. But you use it when it's there, just like eating candy, motivation. But you prepare a full course meal for your long-term nutritional needs. See, people, when they're thinking about their long-term nutritional needs, they do meal planning, right? You see people meal prepping and they got the containers and they're putting the food in all the containers from Monday through the next Saturday. That's your long-term plan when it comes to your nutrition. Now, if you want some Mike and Ike's or some M&Ms, you're in the grocery store standing in line waiting to check out and you see the M&Ms next to the checkout line, yeah, you might grab a bag or two or three, but you don't build your whole strategy around it. It's the same way with motivation. Use it when it's there, but if it's not there, you still got to show up and deliver. Why? Because a professional is expected to show up and deliver every time, regardless of how they feel. You know this, right? So what does all this mean? Let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to turn motivation into discipline. That motivation can get you started and the discipline comes next. This is the whole point. I'm not saying that motivation is a bad thing or you should just completely shun being motivated. It's fine to go ahead and be motivated, but understand what discipline is. Discipline is your willingness and your ability. Your want to combined with your can do for showing up and getting the job done on a consistent basis. I talked about this I'm going to find the episode where I talked about this. It's a combination of your want to and your can do. And those are two different sets of skills. See, in life, if you want to be great at something, you have to have the want to and you have to have the can do. And I talked about having a can do attitude in episode number 1338, how to develop and maintain that can do attitude. And also episode 486, bringing positive can-do energy to everything that you do. Now, let me find this can-do and want-to episode, because there's a combination of these two, and I'll tell you that as I'm searching through it while I'm talking here. But the motivation gets you started. The discipline is your willingness and your ability to show up every day and do the work, i.e. you have the ability to do it and you actually have the desire to do it. Those are two, again, separate things, but you need both of them together in a package deal if you're going to be a pro in anything that you do in life. You have to have the willingness and the ability. Some people have the ability, but not the willingness. They become mediocrities or they become underachievers. Some people have the desire, but they don't have the ability. They become mediocre. All right, you need to be both if you want to be great. That's the greatness equation, which I covered in episode number 1103, the greatness equation, a combination of the desire plus the ability. Motivation is a fine thing because it can give you positive momentum. When I'm motivated to do something, it gives me positive momentum to at least get started, to make a plan, maybe it will even kickstart my activity when I'm doing what I'm doing. But what discipline does is it picks up on that momentum that motivation started, and it makes the activity consistent. See, discipline leads to consistency. You cannot depend on motivation for consistency, because what about the day when you're not motivated? What are you going to do that day? How are you going to perform that day when you're not motivated? You can't depend on it for the consistency. You can't depend on it for you to get your job done. It's not there. So what are you going to do? Not show up at all? You're not going to deliver at all? Now, if you're an amateur, maybe you can get away with that. But if you're a professional, you can't get away with not showing up to work. You can't get away with not delivering at the highest level because you're being paid for it, remember? You have people depending on you. Maybe your coworkers are depending on you, your superiors are depending on you, your subordinates are depending on you, and the people that you serve are depending on you. The general public is depending on you. You can't just not show up when you don't feel like working. Quitting is not a strategy, at least not when we're talking about you being a professional and earning your keep at what you do. Discipline picks up on the momentum that may have been started by motivation, and then it makes it consistent, because discipline is your decision to keep showing up and doing the work even when you don't necessarily feel like doing the work, as we talk about at the top of this show every single day. Motivation is like the alarm clock. What does an alarm clock do? When you're sleeping, the alarm clock wakes you up and it gives you a quick burst of energy to stop sleeping, get up out the bed, and go get ready and start your day. What is discipline? Discipline is like a hearty, solid nutritional benefit breakfast that you eat that fuels you throughout the day. See, the alarm clock that went off in the morning is not going to fuel you throughout the day. Your alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m., the motivation. By 7 o'clock, the effect of the alarm clock is completely worn off. So what are you going to do from 7 o'clock until 10 o'clock that night? If that's all you're looking for is the motivation of the alarm clock and nothing else happens to get you excited or amped up or hyped up, what are you going to do? And if you're a professional, you better do something. Otherwise, you won't be a professional for long. Discipline is what takes you from 6:05 a.m. when the effects of the alarm clock have worn off 5 minutes later through the rest of the day. If you don't have that discipline, you will not become a professional or you will not remain a professional. So understand the big difference between these two things, how they can complement each other, but how one comes before the other, and how one of them is much more dependable and much more long-lasting than the other, and how one of them is the one that matters to being a professional. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to turn motivation into discipline. Let me tell you what amateurs do. Amateurs work off of motivation. Amateurs want to get motivated when they don't feel like doing their job. Amateurs, when they're not motivated and don't feel like doing their job, you know what they do? Nothing. They don't do their job. They just don't show up. They don't do their job. Maybe they don't even have a job. Maybe that's the reason why they don't have a job, because they're not consistent enough for anyone to be willing to depend on them. Therefore, no one will be willing to pay them because they don't know what to expect from that individual. This is what amateurs do. They work off of motivation. Motivation comes and goes, and guess what the amateurs do? They come and go. When they feel like it and they're motivated, they show up and they're hype and they do their thing. When they don't feel like it and they're not motivated, guess what they do? Absolutely nothing. And this is why amateurs are amateurs. You know the thing about being an amateur? Most amateurs don't get paid. Most amateurs are not depended on. Most amateurs are not relied on. Most amateurs, they don't get a corner office. They don't have to put on a suit. They don't have to show up every day with a bunch of people depending on them. But who's going to depend on somebody who you don't even know what they're going to do? Would you depend on somebody whose actions and delivery is inconsistent? Me neither. I won't depend on that individual for what? So amateurs, motivated individuals, and individuals who are seeking motivation as the necessity for them to do their job, they come and go. And these are people who might be a professional for a little while, but then they disappear. They had a job for a little bit, but they couldn't keep it. We thought they had potential to be great, and they did, but they never turned that potential energy into kinetic energy, i.e. energy in motion. At least or even if they did, they couldn't sustain it. Amateurs come and go, the same way motivation comes and goes. And I talked about this in episode number 426. The preparation is what separates the pros from the amateurs. And what is preparation? Preparation is a discipline, ladies and gentlemen. Preparation is a discipline. The decision that you make to get yourself ready for what you're going to do, even when you don't have to. The decision that you make to, let me put this work in right now so that when it's time to perform, I already know what I need to do and I can go off of instinct. That's what professionals do. Pros work off of discipline. You find anybody who's a professional at what they do, somebody who gets paid as their main paid occupation for doing whatever it is they do. Podcasting, YouTubing, playing basketball, being a model, an author, an actor, a rapper, an accountant, a bank manager, a lawyer, a doctor. Ask any one of those individuals, any of you who is a professional. You tell me if I got this wrong. Any of you who is not a professional, you're an amateur, you plan on becoming a professional, and you want to make sure that I got my shit correct, ask someone you know who is a professional. Ask them the following question. Do you always feel like being at work every single day? I guarantee you the answer will be no. Any professional who shows up to work every day, ask them, do they feel like being at work every day? The answer is no. Now, after they tell you no, here's your follow-up question. Why do you show up anyway? And then let them tell you what they're going to tell you. Whatever that answer is to the second question, they are explaining some form of discipline, commitment, professionalism, all under the same umbrella. Professionalism is your willingness and ability, desire, and the follow-through of showing up and delivering every time, even though you might not always feel like it. Again, ask a professional you know, and anyone who's a professional listening to this, do you always feel like being at work? I thought not. Now, why do you show up anyway? This is your job. This is what you signed up for, because you're getting paid for it. And you find a way to do your job adequately enough, even when you don't feel like it. That's why they pay you. You may not always be motivated. I know you're not always motivated, but you get the job done. Because if you weren't getting the job done, you wouldn't have that job. That's why the pros are the pros, and that's why they get paid the way they get paid. Now, my question to you, everyone listening to this, is which one do you want to be? Do you want to be a pro or you want to be an amateur? Even if you are a pro right now, understand that your situation is contingent on you continuing to show up and delivering. Now, you stop showing up and delivering, you won't be a pro anymore. At least not in that work. At least not at that company. You're going to have to start back over at the beginning. So make sure you keep showing up. Don't think just because you've been showing up doesn't mean they're just going to keep paying you off of your reputation from the past. Eventually, you gotta keep showing up. Not eventually, but you have to keep showing up to keep getting paid. That's the game that you're in. That's the game that we're all in, as a matter of fact. Amateurs out there, when you're ready to become a professional, it is not about you making a certain salary or having a certain number of followers. To become a professional, you got to start showing up and doing the job on a consistent basis, even when you don't feel like it. That's when you become a pro, even if you haven't signed a contract, even if you haven't been paid yet. And I'll close it off with this simple anecdote. I wrote an article about this in late March. If you're not on my email list, you don't get my articles that I send out multiple times every week. Just go to workonmygame.com. Workonmygame.com. You can get on my email list, 100% free. You get my articles that I write all the time. It was a famous writer who was given he was just doing a talk, a Q&A session in front of an audience of soon-to-be professional writers. And someone in the audience asked the question and asked the well-known writer, they said, well, look, I want to be a professional writer too. I want to write for a living the way that you do. The problem is I can only write when I'm motivated and inspired. And therefore, I've been inconsistent because I only write when I'm motivated and inspired. And this very famous writer smiled and looked at the question asker and answered and responded to the challenge or the conundrum that this person had with the following. They said, well, you know what? I completely understand your situation because I too have the exact same issue. I only write when I'm motivated and inspired. The thing is, I have trained myself to be motivated and inspired from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. Recapping today's class, which is how to turn motivation into discipline. These are two tools that are far from the same thing, and today you're going to learn how one of them can serve the other because one, being disciplined, much more powerful, dependable, and long-lasting. Number one, motivation is an externality. It's something that comes from the outside. It gets you activated and it gets you moving. When people come to me asking for motivation, I tell them if you need motivation, you are doing the wrong job. Find a different job. And this could be a 15-year-old kid or a 55-year-old executive. If you need motivation, you are doing the wrong job because you cannot depend on it to be there every time that you need it. So motivation is fine in short bursts, but you cannot build a career around motivation the same way you can't build a nutrition plan around candy. Point number two, motivation can get you started, but discipline comes next. Discipline is your willingness and ability, your want to and your can do. You need both to show up every single day and do the work. Motivation is fine because it can give you positive momentum, but discipline picks up on that momentum and turns it into something consistent. Motivation is like the alarm clock that wakes you up. Discipline is the good meal that you eat in the morning that fuels the rest of your day. Number three, amateurs work off of motivation, but motivation comes and goes. That's why amateurs come and go. Professionals, on the other hand, work off of discipline. Discipline is always there because it is a choice that you make. It is not something that just randomly shows up or not. That's why the pros are the pros, and that's why they get paid the way they do. My question is, which one do you want to be? And I got a lot more coming on this very concept very soon. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss what I got coming soon. Work on your game. Dre, send me a text, 305-384-6894. Let me know the most valuable thing you got from today's episode, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre, all